50本塁打、50盗塁、史上初。しかも投げれば防御率0。73、whip 0。837。さらに奪三振率パーセント31、ベーブ・ルースの3倍近いレベルだ。比較なんて無理だと言われても、もう聞きたい。大谷翔平は、本当に野球史上最強なのか。
People love to debate. They can't just let one guy be one guy and then another guy be another guy. There's got to be comparison. And comparison in sports is a fun thing. And I'm actually glad I did this because this has been done a million times. But I learned a lot about Babe Ruth in doing this that I just didn't know. And I bet a lot of you didn't either. This will be quick, but by the end of it, I'll give you my answer. And I think you'll probably have yours. What I do want you to do, you got to comment. Comment twice on this thing. You can reply to your own comment. Comment right now who you think is the GOAT, the greatest of all time between Ruth and Ohtani. Right now, as it stands, Ruth's full career, Ohtani's continuing career. And then when this thing is over, when this video is over, reply to your own comment and say Ruth or Ohtani again. I want to know if it changes through watching this video. So I want to know what your take is before getting any of this information and what your take is after, because mine, I don't know if it changed, but there's some interesting stuff in here. Obviously, you always go with stats. I think that's the biggest thing people do when you compare. It's the facts. The stats are the facts. This is what this guy did. Ruth played 22 years from 1914 to 1935. And I know what you're already saying. Comparing the times, yada, yada. Ohtani is in his 9th year. So Ruth played 22. Ohtani is in year 9 right now. Babe Ruth had 1 MVP in 22 years, 2 All-Stars, 1 batting title, 1 ERA title. Now, the obvious thing here is looking and going 1 MVP in 22 years. What you may or may not know, I actually didn't know this, Ruth's low MVP count is largely due to the restrictive rules of the league awards, the precursor to the modern BBWAA MVP. These were in place between 1922 and 1929. Under these rules, a player was only allowed to win the awards once in his career, which made him ineligible for the rest of the 1920s after his 1923 win. The modern unrestricted MVP voting format was not introduced until 1931, by which time Ruth was 36 years old. Now, that's obvious. I didn't know that. So until 1931, you could only win 1 MVP in your entire career, which is actually stupid. I think it's really stupid. And when Ruth played, the Yankee Stadium he was at, right field was 295 feet. That's pretty freaking short. And Ruth saw there was 16 teams in the league for Ruth's whole career. And there was only white people in the league. There was no black people allowed to play at this time. So Ruth's competition, clearly nothing close to what it was today. I mean, nothing close. Now, for the times, obviously, they were the best that I guess the world had to offer within the racial rules they had, which is crazy. But it doesn't compare in any way to today's game. It just doesn't. It can't. It just can't. Here's one more thing. Prior to 1920, I don't know how many times this happened to Babe Ruth, you weren't credited with a home run if the winning run crossed the plate ahead of you. So there was no, if you're down by 1 and there's 2 runners on and you hit a home run, once that second guy crosses, you're credited with probably a double or a triple wherever you are. I guess a double, we're comparable. Ohtani's got 30 teams in the league. Now here's the Ohtani kind of thought. We'll go over pitching real quick. Their pitching careers, because Babe Ruth, this is why it's a comparison, because Babe Ruth and Ohtani, 2 of the best to ever do it, are pitching and hitting, and you haven't seen anyone do it like the 2 of them really ever. You just haven't. Let's go. Games. WAR. Let's do WAR first. 182.6 for Babe Ruth, 55.3 up to this point for Ohtani. 2,503 games for Ruth, 1,067 for Ohtani. So Ruth at this point has played about 2.5 times more games than Ohtani. He started 147 of them as a pitcher. Ohtani has started 108. 1,221 innings for Babe Ruth. Ohtani is 577. So, again, he has half. He has almost exactly half the innings, which is pretty crazy. ERA, 2.28 for Babe Ruth, 2.8 for Ohtani. Here's the thing I look at and think this is pretty amazing. But again, different times. Babe Ruth, in his 1,221 innings, struck out 488 guys. Ohtani, in his 577, half the innings as Babe Ruth, has struck out 724. So he struck out about 250 more guys in 700 less innings. That's wild. Babe Ruth's K percentage was 10. Ohtani's is 31. Ohtani has 195 walks to Ruth's 441. So Ruth walked, what is that, a guy every 3 innings? Ohtani at 195 is close to the same. 195 walks, almost 600 innings. That's about 1 in every 3 innings. Now, Hall of Fame, yes, championships, 7 for Ruth. Again, 16 teams, different time. Ohtani's got 2. He's got 5 All-Stars, 4 MVPs. It seems like Ohtani has more All-Stars than that. I don't know if that's truly correct, but when it comes to pitching, Ohtani clears this by miles. By miles. That's not even actually close. So check for Ohtani in the pitching department. He's doing it in a much pain. If you just take out the time that he did it, how he did it, the fact that he saw, the same pitcher all game and probably the same pitcher more than, I saw a stat somewhere. The year that Babe Ruth hit his 60 home runs, I think he saw something like 76 pitchers, 76 different pitchers that year. And when Ohtani hit his 60, it was something like, I want to say 270 something, close to almost like 300 different pitchers, which would make sense. I feel like it's honestly could be more than that, really, but it makes sense. If he saw 2 a game, 162 times 2 is, what is that? 320, 324. So let's just put it at 300. You're seeing 300 different arms compared to Babe Ruth, who saw 70, the same guys over and over all season. And God knows they weren't anything near today's pitchers. They weren't even close. They couldn't have been. They just couldn't have been. So when you look at the offensive numbers overall, Babe Ruth, unbelievable. He has him, Ohtani. And here's the thing with Ohtani, he literally can do whatever he decides he wants to do. He wanted to go 50-50, got it. Did it, no problem. 50 homers, 50 steals, got it. First guy ever, I'm going to invent that club. Did it. He wants a Cy Young. That's what he said he wants. He wants a Cy Young. And this is the first year he's really I'm going to try to win the Cy Young. He's made it clear. And he's currently pitching to the tune of a 0.73 ERA over 8 starts, 49 innings, 28 hits, 4 earned runs, 54 Ks, and a 1.043 whip, which is really my favorite pitching stat. I think it's the best stat there is. If you don't know what whip is, it's walks and hits per innings pitched. So that's basically how many base runners get on base just because of the pitcher. It doesn't count errors, doesn't count anything else, only the pitcher. That's what he can control. So 1 an inning at most, and even that feels like that stat might not even be correct. Let's find out real quick for Ohtani this season. Ohtani stats. This year, where's he at pitching-wise? He is, I'm sure it's probably correct, but let's see. No, there you go. 2026 whip, 0.837. I knew that couldn't be right. 0.837 whip. So this dude is letting on less than one guy per inning when he pitches to his own accord. And he's doing what needs to be done to win a Cy Young. He's not the favorite. He's not the favorite. Christopher Sanchez is absolutely dealing. And there's another guy or two up there too, but he's gone 6, 6, 6, 6, 6, 7, 7, 5. That's how many innings he's gone in his 8 starts. 5 straight starts of 6 innings, and then 2 starts of 7 innings, and then a 5-inning outing. This guy is literally whatever he decides he wants to do, he's going to do, or at least put himself in the runnings for something. It's very interesting to me.
Wish Kike a speedy recovery, and of course the Dodgers dealing with Max Muncy's injury, and now very similar to that, Shohei Ohtani had to leave the game after he got hit in the hand, his pitching hand, by Kyle Freeland. I mean, it was 85 miles an hour, still hard, but it's better than 95 miles an hour. Apparently they're not going to do any x-rays, they're not going to do any MRIs. It was just a precaution with the Dodgers blowing out the Rockies 15-6 last night. So he being Ohtani, is scheduled to pitch tonight. Will he hit? Now that may complicate things. I doubt he will hit tonight, even if he's fine, because again, it's his pitching hand, and you want him to concentrate on that and not have any more, any more pressure, any more strain on it by using his hand as to swing the bat. Of course, Ohtani leading the majors with a 0.73 ERA. It's a curious time right now. Again, Dodgers really, had a lot of injuries last year and kind of dealt with it. But, obviously to lose Max Muncy for a stretch of time, now Kike and Ohtani, that really jumps out at you. They've already lost Mookie Betts. They dealt with a lot of injuries with Freddie Freeman last year. Dodgers just trying to get well. All-Star break almost can't come fast enough, right? We still got over a month and a half to go there. So the Dodgers and Rockies will finish up their series tonight. Dodgers trying to sweep the series, win their 5th straight game. By the way, Dodgers...
And a baseball season, not just the regular season, but what should be another long postseason as well.
Looking more short-term, as in tonight, Shohei Ohtani's scheduled to pitch. I know that is still on track, but after taking a pitch off his hand last night, it was sort of up in the air about whether he was going to hit. Any insight as to whether we see two-way Shohei or just pitcher Shohei?
Great question. I think Dave Roberts, and he said this before, he's going to go on a week-by-week decision with Shohei. They are aided by a team off day at home, no travel tomorrow, so essentially a little bit more time for Shohei to recover. My gut tells me, and this is just speculation, that the Dodgers were able to blow out the Rockies so badly yesterday and get Shohei out of there. That was more precautionary than anything with the hit involving the hit by pitch. The fact that he was able to get 4 innings off last night gives him a good case for Dave Roberts to do two-way Shohei things, especially with the off day, no travel tomorrow. So my gut feeling tells me that he will do both, but I, again, will not be surprised. I think, again, Dave Roberts has had to walk a really tight line in terms of making sure he can get the most out of Shohei as a hitter and a pitcher on days that he starts. But, guys, we know that when he's doing both, his leash is not going to be as long as a starter. I think Dave Roberts has said as much. There are going to be days where Shohei's not hitting in the lineup that Dave is ready and comfortable pushing him to 7 or more innings. When he is hitting in the lineup on his pitching start days, not so much. They also have to take into consideration the bullpen. The bullpen right now has been pretty well rested, so everyone should be ready to go. Which makes me feel like that Ohtani will hit today, because you can make him have a little bit of a shorter leash, knowing the bullpen has your back and you have the
some opinions on this. Katie, appreciate you joining us. And one of the reasons we wanted to have you on was to talk about your latest piece where Mookie Betts, he's coming off a really nice game last night, but he's been struggling for a while. And he admitted that the stuff from the fans is getting to him now more than stuff that athletes always hear has done for him in the past. Why do you think that is now?
Yeah, guys. Hi, nice to talk to you. And it's a great question. When I was talking to Mookie yesterday, I asked him if he felt like it was surprising that the outside noise was getting to him a little bit more than maybe previous in his career. And I think we, just in the industry, maybe take for granted what players are going through each day. And when Mookie obviously has not had a strong start to the season. The oblique strain cost him 4 weeks. The offensive production has been what it is. And he's wearing that hard. You know, he told me it's not like I'm out there trying to sabotage the team. He's actively trying to go out there and play like Mookie Betts. He just hasn't had that success yet. Yesterday, obviously, a good sign in the right direction. But I think that wears on you when you're a player and you have as high expectations for yourself and for your team as the Dodgers do and as Mookie Betts does. And I think it was maybe needed for him to be as candid as he was and saying, hey, I don't feel super supported by all of the fans right now. You know, he was very complimentary about the rest of the fan base and saying, you know, I know that the ones in the stadiums and, you know, a couple of bad messages don't speak for the entire fan base. But, you know, he did say that the hate was starting to wear on him. So he deleted his social media, tried to get himself into a better headspace. 2 homers and a 3-hit night yesterday will probably help with that. But, yeah, it was a good reminder that these athletes are human and are dealing with a lot of things outside of the box score.
I mean, are you surprised, Katie, that...
Well, that's ultimately what you got to do.
Talking with Katie Wu. She covers the Dodgers for The Athletic. She's also one of the hosts of the Dodger Territory podcast. You can follow her on Twitter at Katie J. Wu. Andy Kamenetsky, Marcus Grant in for the guys. One last question on this, and I kind of putting you on the spot to, I guess, psychoanalyze Mookie Betts a bit, but how much of this do you think could be just Mookie recognizing I'm getting older, you know, my body is starting to betray me a bit, and because of that, it's harder to know for sure that I can turn all this around. You know what I mean? Like, it in the past, in his prime, I'm sure Mookie could take for granted, I'm Mookie Betts, this will turn around. He's not necessarily at that place anymore.
So I asked him a version of that same question, and, you know, I think it's fair to point out the age of the Dodgers roster. They're the oldest active roster in baseball. And I asked him, you know, because he mentioned a couple times that he's 33 and he's learning things, and it's not the same as he was when he was 21, but he still feels like he can be the same player. And I'll read this quote that he told me from the story on The Athletic. He said, I think I'm so much more knowledgeable about the game now. I truly believe I'm a better player now. I just need to find that cue to keep up with what's going. Once I find that cue, we saw last year in September, I can still play. I can still be who I am. So I can understand, you know, and Mookie's not the only one facing age questions, obviously. There's Freddie Freeman comes to mind, Teoscar Hernandez, all these guys getting older. But the way that Mookie talks about what he knows about the game and how he knows his body and how he knows his performance, I actually think, you know, plays into the frustration of it not being able to translate in the box score. We talked to him after his big night yesterday.
Not allowed to play. It's not even comparable. And all the other things we talked about. So you cannot compare 1920 to 2020. It's in every aspect, it is a completely different game all the way around. Any pitcher today, the Houston Astros just threw a combined 3-guy no-hitter against Texas. I would argue if an old team like that, if you just plugged in a 1920s team, take the Babe Ruth Yankees or whatever he was on, put him in today's game without any difference. You have a 1920s team. You don't have the resources of today. You don't have any of that. You got your 50-ounce bats. You got all that stuff. I would argue they would get no-hit 100 times in a 162-game season. Would they eventually figure it out? Yeah. But I would argue there would be an insane streak of what is this? When you're seeing Mason Miller come in, not a guy would be able to take the bat off their shoulder. Maybe that's crazy. Maybe 100's crazy. They were professionals back then. They might figure it out sooner than that, but I think there would be an insane amount of no-hitters. Insane. So Babe Ruth faced a significantly easier MLB than Ohtani. And I will say this. I'll finish with this. I think Babe Ruth is today. I think today's Babe Ruth is Kyle Schwarber. That's what I think. I think if you put Babe Ruth in today's game and gave him the resources growing up that Ohtani has and all these guys have, I think he is a Kyle Schwarber, if he's even that good, to be honest. But Ruth, for his time, clearly the greatest of his time. Now, if I had to choose between the two, am I taking Ohtani, what we know of Ohtani today, and Babe Ruth, who also got all the same resources, say he was born the same year as Ohtani? What's Ohtani, 30, 31? So he was born in what, mid-90s? Mid to late 90s or something? If Babe Ruth was born mid to late 90s, loved baseball, grew up, all the training tools, all that stuff, and made it to the big leagues, I think
ここまで見てくれたあなた、 本当にありがとう。この動画が少しでも面白かったら、コメントで意見を聞かせてください。そして高評価、シェア、チャンネル登録も忘れずに、次の動画で、また一緒に野球の熱狂を味わいましょう。